our tributes, Peter Malark and Katniss Everdeen.
They just want a good show. That's all they want.
There's 24 of us, Gail. Only one comes out.
The Hunger Games was actually the all-school read at my school, so everybody had to read it. And I normally am like, I don't want to read it, but all my friends were like, you gotta read it, it is great. And quickly became hooked, read the first one, the second one, waited till midnight for the third one, looked up like potential cast videos on YouTube because I loved it so much. And I actually knew Gary Ross's daughter, Claudia, and her dad was interviewing kids that had read the books that were fans of it. So I went in, did an interview with him, and then 2 weeks later, I got a call and he wanted me to come in and read for Foxface. And I was completely flipping out that I even had the opportunity to go in and audition. And so the fact that I got the part is still mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I first came across the books when I found out they were making the movies. That's kind of when I first heard about them, and I became hooked right away. I love the story. You know, my character Peter was so interesting to me. I connect with him on so many levels. You know, so for me, yeah, I just kind of a passion sort of thing that I felt towards this story and the characters, and had a couple of auditions. The second one being with Jennifer Lawrence as a chemistry read, and they all went fantastic, I thought. But I've thought that before and not gotten jobs, so you know, you never know. And it was literally like a week and a half, 2 weeks after I'd done the second audition before I found out, and it was absolute torture. I was like killing myself, waiting to get the phone call. Every time my phone was like, hello? Oh, God. Okay, and it's to the point where literally if a word began with H, I would say hunger. I'd be like, so are we having people over tonight to whatever? And it was a mild obsession. But yeah, it was very relieving once I finally got that phone call. Job security, which is nice. You know, as an actor, it's funny because you really don't know when you're going to work again, or if you're going to. Even when I worked with Julianne Moore, she told me that in between jobs, she's like, "Am I ever going to get hired again?" Like I understand that to a T. And I'm so happy to know that somebody else who is extremely successful and talented thinks that same way. But yeah, no, it is a weird sense of job security for me. I think that I love making independent films. I think that, you know, they tell some of the most amazing stories with the most amazing cast and types of material out there. But at the same time, you know, I think that the Hunger Games has that as well, and that's kind of what attracted me to it. It was never about the scope of how big it was going to be, or, you know, the fan following, which is great. But, you know, it's definitely to me about the material, 100%, and that's what I've always chose my movies based on, and that's what I want to continue to do. So in between the Hunger Games, which I know are going to be coming, which is nice, I'm able to kind of step away and do more kind of indie projects as well. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think a big part of it is that it's important for kids today to see, you know, such a strong female lead, because there's not a lot of that out in literature and in movies and in, you know, culture today. And so I think it's really great that there's somebody who's not really ruled by romance, but is really ruled by, you know, a love for her family and goes in to protect them. And so I think that that is something important for girls to see.
He has.
I'm the only one.
We have not.
I loved it. It's so good. Honestly, I had pretty high expectations just based on like what Gary Ross had told me and what other people I'd talked to had seen the project had told me, which is never a good thing to go into one of your own movies with high expectations. It's never a good situation. But I was blown away, honestly. Like I haven't walked out of a movie, let alone one of my own movies before, where I felt so moved and felt like the movie captures the essence of the story in so many ways, and literally from the very beginning to the very end, you're emotionally invested in the entire story, and that's so important, I think, because as reading the book, I felt that way, and you know, I want to make sure that came across in the movie, and it does. I'm very, very proud of it, and I was nervous, but now I'm just excited for people to see it. Extremely. I mean, honestly, in my mind, the book, the script, and the movie have literally become one entity to me. And I can't even tell you things that aren't in the movie that are in the book, because I don't know. If anything, I think in the movie it allows exploration outside of just Katniss's narrative. Because, you know, in the book you're tied to that, so you're tied to only her thoughts and ideas. In the movie they can kind of like step over to the Capitol and show a little bit more of that, or step into, you know, District 12 when Gail's watching the games and trying not to watch the games, and really kind of get into that headspace as well. So it allowed some exploration outside of just Katniss, which I thought was really interesting. I have a few.
To say the least, they're very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Very enthusiastic.
I was recognized once on a street near my school, and it was pajama day, so naturally I was wearing bright pink footy pajamas covered in cats with sheep slippers. And
naturally.
just for the visual. And these girls were kind of looking at me, and I just smiled, and then I went across the street, and then they yelled, "We love you, Foxface," and then like sprinted the other way. And I remember standing there like, "Hi!" Like, oh God, like, what am I wearing? But that was crazy. That was really cool.
I think, for me, the mall events have been kind of just wild and out there.
Yeah.
I was talking earlier today. I didn't know humans could reach such a pitch when screaming. I think there's a certain age range you have to be in. I think it's like 11 to 17-year-old girls. But it's amazing to see that and hear that. I think my craziest fan experience, I was actually back home in Kentucky with my family for the holidays around Christmas time, and it was actually the day after Christmas. I was having dinner at my house with my grandparents and whatnot, and we just finished dinner, and my doorbell rang, and I went to go get the door, as one does, and there is a mom standing there with these two girls, and they instantly do that scream that's that level that you don't understand, and start crying, and they have literally clothes that have my face and my character's face and pita bread and all sorts of things all over it, and they continue on to tell me that they had driven down to my house from Chicago on the chance that I might be home for the holidays, and then they also said that they saw me eating dinner and they didn't want to wait. They wanted to wait so they didn't interrupt my dinner and ring the doorbell afterwards. So like they're polite stalkers, I guess.
So you've moved since then, right?
Exactly. No, I don't live there. I live in Los Angeles. But yeah, that was a crazy experience. One that I hope not to have any more of. It was great for once. Like once, oh wow, this is crazy, but never again.
I got this one experience, and it's happened more than once, where people pretend to know me, and when they don't, and I really feel uncomfortable when I feel like I don't remember someone.
Totally.
And so I was on vacation once, and this guy goes, "Isabelle," and I'm like, "Hi."
Hey, you.
And he's just like, "We don't know each other, but I just wanted to sit down." He's like, sits down next to me at the dinner table, and he's just like, just wanted to come up and say hi. And I'm like, "That's great." And so I'm on the beach with my friend, and we go to the water, and he would follow us and be like, "Oh, hey, Isabelle." And I'm just like,
It's so funny seeing you
"Hi,
here.
like, good to
So
see
random.
you." Yeah.
No, I don't think that's related to the Hunger Games. I think that's just a creepy guy.
Yeah, exactly. No relation at all to an actor or anything.
But still, that was the craziest fan experience I've ever had. The malls was something, but other than that, I go to school, I go see my friends, that's about it.
Yeah, I did. Actually, I got to do 100% of my stunts in this, which was great because I love doing stunts, and a lot of times they freak out and don't let you due to liability issues, which I understand. But actually, my biggest injury was not doing a stunt. It was Jennifer Lawrence. She decided that she was going to try to show me that she can kick over top of my head. So I was like, there's no way. And so she tried to kick over top of my head and actually kicked me in the side of the head and gave me a real concussion. And she felt so bad. She's like crying and like, "You can kick me in the head if you want to. I'm so sorry." I was like, Jennifer, I'm not going to kick you in the head. It's fine. So that was my biggest injury. Yeah.
I did all my own stunts for the movie as well. I wouldn't let the stunt double do anything. I actually learned how to throw knives for the film. So that was an interesting experience. Trying to keep up with it, but Mom's not really supportive of the knife throwing. It's not exactly
She walks
a
in the
sport.
kitchen. What the?
Isabelle?
Would you stop it?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. You continue. All right.
That's your impression.
That was your mom. That's what she sounds like.
A little bit. Anyway, so knife throwing, and then a little bit of parkour for the woods, as you said, like running through the woods, and then physical training. But I'm trying to think, injuries. No, Gary was coming to see the training center, and we were jumping on something called the gauntlet, where there are different levels, and there were some people swinging bats at us, like foam bats, of course, and we were supposed to dodge them, and there was choreography that had been previously planned, and so I was doing it, and then Gary Ross came in the room, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to impress him so I can do this in the movie." And so I guess I got really nervous, and so the bats were swinging, and I moved back, and then I moved forward, and I accidentally tripped and fell off of it.
We all thought she died.
They all thought I died. I was
huge
okay,
crash.
though.
She fell from it was like 6 feet straight to the ground. Like we were like, "Oh my God, we just lost a cast member. Like we're gonna have to recast. This is gonna be awful."
No, but I didn't tell anyone that I sprained my ankle because I wanted to be able to do my own stunts. But like it was definitely an experience because everyone was all of a sudden like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just like, "What just happened? I thought I was doing good. Now I feel really embarrassed."
Yeah, I also did all of my own stunts except for one, which I physically could not have done without probably knocking myself out. So, good thing I didn't do that. But I also had to go through like parkour and free running training because Foxface is very agile. So they had me doing, like somersaulting and dive rolls and jumping over like super high blocks and going fast. And it was really fun. I did injure myself the second time I met Josh in training. I was doing a dive roll and I was trying to be all cool and like, yeah, like I'm Foxface. I can do this cool stuff. And I gave myself a black eye. So that wasn't fun, but I got to school and I wasn't allowed to tell anybody about the Hunger Games yet. So everyone was like, oh my God, what happened? I was like, oh, I was just jumping and my knee.
I ran into a door. That's the classic
Just
black eye.
nice weather, right? How about them Knicks? I was like, huh.
I didn't do the dishes right.
Yeah.
I thought I love the cave scene. I mean, between Peeta and Katniss, I think that when I was reading it selfishly as an actor, I was like, oh man, that's great acting in that scene. I'm ready to do that. And also, I think that as a reader, you see, Peeta who's never actually told Katniss to her face how he feels and why he feels that way, and to kind of have that happen in that scene and kind of have that big transition where she can kind of learn to trust him and their relationship can kind of become something, and they kiss. And I was like, oh, pitter patter. So I was excited about that to read and to see that kind of realized in person.
For me, the feast scene with Jen, because I had trained for about a week for the stunt part of it, and then it's also a very emotionally a very interesting scene for Clove because it's where you get to meet her, and she has this whole monologue of basically like mentally abusing her, and so getting into that place was definitely difficult. But I did a lot of research into her and kind of studied her psyche, and I really think that, in my opinion, I think I did great. I mean, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know.
You did great.
You always hope for the best, Thank you.
I think when I was reading the books, a scene that really stuck out to me that was one of Foxface's was the mine hopping scene. Because I was just like, how is she so clever to have figured out that pattern, without getting caught? So that scene was really cool. And then I think the scene I was most excited to film was probably the interview scene with Stanley Tucci, because I was a huge Stanley Tucci fan, and when I found out that he was cast as Caesar and I would have a scene with him, I called my mom like freaking out. I was like, I get to have a scene with Stanley Tucci. So that was definitely, I was so nervous, but he was great. Completely put me at ease, and I had a blast. Yeah, well, I just actually released my second music video called Catch Me If You Can yesterday, and my first music video, Peter Pan, came out a couple months ago, so you can see those on YouTube. And I just got into Stanford, so I will be going there either next year or the year after that, because everything's kind of taking off right now, so I think I might take a year off, but college is definitely a top priority for me.
I'm actually going to be leaving right after the premiere and going to go to Philly and shoot a movie called After Earth that M. Night Shyamalan's directing, and Will and Jaden Smith are in it as well.
I don't have a next project yet. Like I was saying earlier, the job security of knowing that the Hunger Games are coming kind of gives me the freedom to be more selective. So I'm kind of just reading a bunch of scripts at this point. I have a movie coming out April 13th, Detention actually, that I executive produced on as well as acted in, which was first time for me getting behind the camera and something I've always wanted to do, so kind of stepping into that realm is very exciting. And then I also have another movie coming out this fall called Red Dawn, which is a remake of the 1980s Patrick Swayze movie, and we shot it almost 3 years ago. And then the studio went through some changes and stuff like that with MGM, so now it's finally coming out. I'm very excited about that. The Catching Fire has a release date already of November next year. So they kind of are, in my opinion, getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here. But I think that I can't wait to get started on them. So I think that every year, not yet. They started writing in the kind of pre-production phase. But I think we're looking at going to production sometime like into the summer, fall.
Last question. Team Gale or Team Peeta?
Team Katniss.
Team Haymitch.
4, 3, 2, 1.